This is a show about jewelry, why we wear it, why it matters, how it's made, and what it means. I'm Alex D, and I turn cannabis into gold. I make mind-blowing jewelry in gold, silver, and platinum from cannabis plants here in Canada for stage, screen, for people who want to rock crazy jewelry. I'm the cannabis goldsmith.
It's Alex D, and I'm making belt buckles. I am making sterling silver trophy belt buckles for people who love cannabis. Right now, I'm working on a half cannabis leaf, a half indica leaf belt buckle. So just the tip of it. I designed it from a real leaf, a live hybrid leaf. It looks like this plant was kind of freaky, as some of the leaves were gigantic and oversized for the size of the plant itself. So I thought, man, I'm gonna capture some of these leaves to use in belt buckles because they're big enough. So that's what I did. And then finally, we had a public holiday. We had May 2-4 in Canada, which is our annual drinking holiday for those that do that. And it's actually the Queen. It had to do with the Queen's birthday, which tends to move around each year on different days. I could never understand. Anyway, the May 2-4 weekend, which never falls on May 24th, except once in a while, was last week. And all the post offices were all shut. So the shipping was all shut and everything. So finally, I got the buckles. And yesterday, I went into the studio to work on the first one, just to finish it, because I have to sand off and polish off all the crud that accumulates, the oxides, when you cast precious metal. All this schmutz is on the outside, stuff like residue from the plaster molding, the one-shot plaster that you use to create the molds. So anyway, that's kind of baked into the surface of your precious metal when you cast it, when it comes out, and you have to clean that off. Normally, jewelers will, when the pieces are small, you can put them in a tumbler filled with steel balls or steel pins and spin it around either magnetically or mechanically and toss your piece in there with it. And the steel balls will polish off all the fuzz and the stuff that shouldn't be on the piece, and leaving you with a nice, bright, finished cast. Now, normally this is what happens with something like a ring or a pendant, something small. But our pieces are so gigantic that even though I have a huge tumbler that can fit pieces that are gigantic, the action of a tumbler on gigantic pieces of jewelry is different than the action of a tumbler on small pieces of jewelry. And this I've learned from trial and error. So if you ever want to tumble large pieces of jewelry in a mechanical tumbler, not a magnetic tumbler, but something that rotates, right, with balls in it and stainless steel ball bearings or whatever, and your piece is in there swishing around. But if the piece is too big, it tends to stay in one place in the tumbler. And what happens is one side gets polished and the other does not. The one side gets finished and the other does not. So that's why trying to get big pieces clean in a tumbler sometimes won't work. I found that, especially with a piece I want to take extra care with like this belt buckle. The first one I'm working on now is a half of an indica leaf. I'm calling it just the tip because it is. I start off generally looking at the piece to see what I have to take off it, and which is this oxide and stuff that appears after the cast is cast. So that has to come off before you can get to the metal, reveal the metal. So I'm taking it off manually because the piece is too big and for the tumbler, and it's a weird shape. I don't want to trust it in there. I want to work with it with work with the buckle in my hands rather than letting a machine clean it out of sight, out of my eyesight. So I'm working on it with files and sandpaper. Last night I went in and I recorded a couple of quick time-lapse videos of me working on it. I'll put up on the Instagram page today so you can see what that's like, how much work goes into just cleaning it before you even get to the polishing stage. But the buckle is amazing. I mean, all three of these buckles that I sent to Ed worked. Now, the leaf ones I think are better at first glance because they're lighter. I did another one. I was interested in a seed field, but it seems very heavy. I'm going to have to, I think, either lighten it. I'm going to try it on a belt first to see if it works. And if the seed field, it's like a field of cannabis seeds in sterling silver with one 14-karat gold seed in the face. So it's a silver buckle with a 14-karat gold component in it. But it's heavy. Even before I've added the gold, it's like it's very heavy for a buckle. And I think that was my design error. I made it too thick. The problem is with seeds, they're round, right? And if you put enough of them together, say in a dish, and they all join together into one kind of shape made out of a bunch of smaller seeds, it can get heavy, you know? So I think what I might do next time is try and thin out the seeds a little bit from the back. So make sure the faces of them are nice, but hollow them out a bit from behind. So I might even do that in the silver. A lot of times when I'm making models out of plants and getting them cast, the plants are so delicate, the leaves are so delicate that I can't do any finishing or design work on them really until the cast is done and it's in metal. I make my master models in plastic and wax, and sometimes those materials are too soft and too delicate to deal, right? They, even in the shipping, will change them. Shipping them, the master models might change them. You know, so I'm kind of worried about that, the changes that happen from the model to the finished piece. I'm always wanting to keep it good. Anyway, so I've been working on this buckle last night. I went into the shop last night at the end of the day. It was a really busy day yesterday. And I went in, I guess at, 6, and I got out of there at 10 o'clock last night. Just so involved in this belt buckle, finishing this belt buckle. I'm going slowly with it, and I'm looking at it, like I say, doing it manually. I could use a polishing motor, a machine. If you went to a commercial kind of jeweler, they would stick it under a polishing motor, and in 5 minutes you'd have a nice shiny piece. But I'm putting love into it, and I'm working on this by hand with files to get in the nooks and crannies of the leaf. The whole thing is you want to take off the stuff that's on the outside of the cast without losing any of the detail. And each time you sand or file the metal, you're taking off detail. Now, you have to do it. You have to remove the material in a way that's not going to remove your pattern or design. And that's why I'm going by hand on this. So that was a long explanation for my thinking about this. I always like using files. Small Swiss files. They're incredibly accurate. They're well made. They're expensive, but they're hand files. But for those of you who are not jewelers, they're like hand files that you would use to file something. But they're smaller. They're tiny, and the filing abrasive or the cuts in the file that make the cuts in the metal, they're so accurate. And they're called Swiss files. And so if you want to get into little areas in a ring, for example, prongs holding a stone in a ring, you use these Swiss files to get in there and do your filing because they're small and because they're accurate. So that's what I'm using on the sides of this buckle, on the serrated leaf edges, and on the back. And I've got lots of area on the back of this buckle to use for printing and for engraving. And when I say printing, I mean engraving. But like I can put our "Wear the Plant" slogan on the back. It's big enough. I can put personal branding. If whoever buys this, I can engrave their name into it if that's what they want. And oh God, it's going to be a beautiful piece. I can even see now. It's not too heavy. It's huge. It's big, but it's not too big. So this half leaf indica leaf belt buckle would be perfect for a pair of jeans or even dress pants once it's polished. So by the end of the day today, I hope to be able to have photographs of this mostly polished buckle. So what I do with a silver piece this big in order to finish it is I take off the schmutz and then I start using finer and finer grades of sandpaper abrasive on it until I get to maybe 600 or 800 grit, which is pretty fine. I mean, you can go finer than that. And then once that's done, the buckle will be mostly done, and then I'll throw it in the tumbler with steel balls. And the reason I'm doing that is at that point is not to polish it, but rather to harden the metal, because the action of the steel balls against the metal being bumped against it inside the tumbler, and there's a little bit of water in there to act as a lubricant too, but these balls are smashing. They're only just tiny ball bearings, but they're smashing against the surface of the silver belt buckle, and what they're doing is they're hardening the silver. You know, if you've ever seen, the Game of Thrones, kind of the sword maker dudes, they're always hammering shit on anvils. They're like, hey, bang, bing, bing, the hot metal on the anvil thing. What that's doing is work hardening the steel to make it harder and to make it hold an edge better when the dude is slashing through the enemy with his sword. That's razor sharp and holds the edge because the blade has been work hardened, and that's why it's stronger and wears better. So I'm going to do the same thing with the buckle. After I finished it, I'm just going to stick it in the tumbler and let it run and let the balls go smash against the silver and harden it. And what this will do to the buckle is it'll add a little bit to the finish, although my finish will already be there that I've achieved with files and sandpaper and stuff. But what it'll do is it'll just harden the whole piece and give it that stiffness. Silver's soft. Although this piece isn't bending, it's thick enough not to bend now. But that little bit of extra it's called peening when you put something in a tumbler to be hardened like this. So it's just think blacksmith hammering away. Anyway, so once that's done, the buckle will be finished, and then I can laser on hallmarks and slogans and branding and design on the back. I'm going to put some stuff on the back that I think makes the back look as good as the front, and then it will be ready. And this buckle is like a trophy buckle, It's something you could wear your whole life and pass on. I mean, I think it's going to look great on a pair of jeans. It'll look great on a pair of dress pants. And it fits on a standard 1.5 inch belt. I'm really happy with these products, I tell you. Seeing a design come together, I think this is what design is about, is when you get an idea in your mind. Maybe it's inspired by nature, like mine are. My designs are inspired by the cannabis plant, right? So a designer, sees a flower or a bush or a tree or whatever, draws it out and then makes it into a painting. That whole process of conversion of natural beauty into beauty you can see or wear, or hang on your wall or wear on your belt or wear on your finger. That's what the whole mission is. That's the mission. Transmuting the beauty of cannabis into wearable jewelry. And objects that are just that reflect the beauty of the plant, but also reflect the thinking of the person who buys it. I mean, these are statement pieces, right? You wear this and it's like, okay, well, this half buckle, a person might not know it's a cannabis leaf, especially if they're not a cannabis user. They might not, it's so out of context seeing a leaf as a belt buckle. It's so, you can't place it at first. It's a leaf, but you don't know what kind it is, right? But somebody who is a cannabis aficionado would spot immediately what it's about. But it lives in this design lives in that gray area where you could wear it into a boardroom meeting. And maybe one or two people would know what it is, but most wouldn't even know, right? But they would know it's like a stunning belt buckle, a beautiful silver belt buckle. So anyway, that's it with the belt buckle situation. Hopefully by the end of the day, I'll have this one ready for photography. And once I've done all that stuff, like cleaned off the schmutz, polished it, peened it, and then hallmarked it with all the branding and stuff and all the messaging on the back of the buckle, which is important. The back is as important as the front, I think. Once all that's done, and then it'll be ready for photography, so we can shoot some images and put those up, and then it's for sale. So if anybody wants to buy it, just send me an email, alexd@cannabisgoldsmith.com. Yeah, once that's done, then I photograph it, and sometimes I have to change the finish of it when I photograph it. These big pieces reflect light, so they're hard to photograph, and if they're too shiny, they're even harder to photograph. So sometimes I take the shine down a bit just so that I can photograph them properly and the pieces properly, and then I put it back after. So these are the little tricks of the trade when it comes to photographing jewelry. Sometimes you just can't photograph it because it's too shiny. There's a Twitter account called People Selling Mirrors, and it's all these people who are trying to sell mirrors on Facebook or whatever. They get their partner to hold the mirror up and they try and take a picture of it, and because it's a mirror and it reflects back whatever is in front of it, you see these for sale mirrors with pictures of that, like people, like shirtless people try to photograph the mirror. Like you see the state of their homes in the reflection, and it just you look in the reflection and you see all this stuff. It's just hilarious. But shiny objects, right, are hard to photograph. So people selling mirrors is an indication of that. So sometimes I'll take down the shine just to reduce the reflection to photograph the object properly. But you have to do that in order to photograph reflective metal. Well, one more thing I want to talk about today is actually a couple of more things, but something happened last week that's going to change everything. It's going to change your business. It's going to change your art practice. It's going to change your life. It's a huge, huge, massive thing for anyone who does business on the internet, for anyone who communicates across the internet. These changes are happening, and they are going to impact everybody. And I don't think well either. I think that the changes are going to be very negative for everyone involved. And what I'm talking about here is Google. Google had their I/O event last week, and they just freaked out. The tech reporters, the tech reporters were so freaked out. The ones I trust anyway, were distraught. Were distraught last week by the Google announcement that they're no longer going to really provide search results. They're going to provide AI-generated search results. That was the announcement in a nutshell. What this means is that the blue links, when you do a Google search, and Google, you search for table lamps or whatever, and Google presents a list of links going to sites that it decides we're authoritative to talk about table lamps. Now, that's a whole other side issue, because of late and many years, those links that they delivered when you did the search for table lamps were all bought and paid for. You'd have to, at first, when Google first started, you would get accurate information, but as they got into the advertising business, the online advertising business in a huge way, this is where they make probably now most of their money, or a large part of it, from digital advertising. So a lot of these links would be ads that you would get. You'd have to page through 3 or 4 Google pages to get to the information you wanted. But the thing is, nobody does that. Nobody goes to the 3rd page to find search results, unless they're a maniac, or unless they're obsessed with something. They're not going to go that far. They'll look at the first page, pick one of the links out, click it, and go to whatever. This is how most people did Google searches. So over the years, the searches got worse and worse and worse. And in fact, I haven't used Google search in years because the results it was giving me weren't what I needed. I would use it, I would try to use it, or I would compare it to other search engines, but the whole functionality of search, I hate that word, the whole function of search on the web, the quality of it has been getting worse and worse as the technology has been improving. And the reason is these tech platforms control the flow of information on the internet. Now, it's all up to them. They decide what gets shown. And as they were exerting more and more control over internet content, there would be less and less information, relevant information revealed that when you were doing searches. It would be all ads coming back at you. And this is the case today. But what happened last week was even worse. And it had, how I know it's worse is because I have a long history with the internet. But even if I didn't, somebody like Casey Newton, who is a New York Times reporter, also he runs the Platformer Tech newsletter, which is excellent. And he's the canary in the coal mine for this. And if he's freaked out, this is serious. He is the literal canary in the coal mine. And he could barely talk last week. He was so distraught by this whole thing. Now, why is he freaked out? He understands that if Google eliminates search and just does AI search, what that means is there'll be one box and you type in, okay, what newsletters can I subscribe to for tech news? If you type that into the new Google AI thing they're developing, the search result won't be a bunch of links, but rather it will be an AI-generated response that will say, oh, the Vice Grip podcast is the best tech podcast, and you should go there and subscribe to that. And you know what? There may be no Vice Grip podcast. It might entirely be a hallucination by the AI, but people will be taking this as truth. They're not going to go search deeper than that. They'll just use that information. They'll just take what's presented. And now what Google has been doing, and other search entities, they've used these little search snippets. So if you were searching for, say, garden hose or whatever, you would all the web publishers that had garden hose sites would have little snippets on their webpage that would describe the site. So when you search for Google, it would present a little snippet that the publisher had created. So the garden hose site had created. Now that's all going to change. Now Google is going to decide and say what it wants based on its AI looking at the web, and it's going to say, oh, well, let's invent some site that is the authoritative on tech reporting, and we'll send the traffic there. Who knows? Because nobody knows what's going on inside these AI. Even the people who create these AIs have no idea really how they work. So they have a general idea, but they don't have an exact idea. So essentially this is a huge experiment on the internet that Google has committed to doing. I think they were really worried about making such significant changes to the search the way people search on the internet. This is going to change everything. And I think you have to think about this in a kind of a broader sense. A lot of people won't understand what I'm talking about here, but what I'm meaning is that Google is getting between you and your customer, is getting between you and the information you want to find. It's reducing the choice that when it gives you back data, it's preparing the data for you in a way that it feels you will accept better. It will be more tasty for you to enjoy this data. It will go down better, so it will word it right for you. It will put it there, and it might be all completely made up. And that's where we're heading. Already it's like that. Much of the internet now is filling up with AI generated content that's mediocre at best and horrible at worst. It's absolutely meaningless shit, and it's all over the internet. Now we have to trust our information space, where we learn, where school kids learn, where businesses try and sell their products, where people try and communicate with each other, where partners try to meet. All this is going to be mediated by Google's AI. And the other AI I didn't talk about yet, OpenAI's ChatGPT 4.0 or 4.0 or whatever the fuck they're calling it. Like, this was the Scarlett Johansson version that they asked for permission from Scarlett Johansson to use her voice, and she didn't give it, so they just imitated it and used that. Like, this is how they think, right? So if you're a business person and you're wondering whether AI is going to be good for your business, it's not. It's not going to be good for your business. It's going to get between you and your customers. Now, how do you deal with that? And I think this is why Casey was so freaked out. He understood in a second that all the customers, all his subscribers, however many he has now, 100,000 or whatever, that are paying each month to visit to download his newsletter or whatever, the AI can just take that traffic away in an instant, and he'll have his existing customers, but he's not going to be able to grow his business because the AI will determine that. Now, if Google's gonna get rid of all their links that they used to monetize and earn revenue, they're gonna want to make that money somewhere else. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna sell results. They're gonna sell AI results to publishers. And I think this is just another vague, foggy layer of ad tech between the customer and the business that the tech platforms are installing to monetize everyone. It's truly sad. I think the tech bros are like the tech media bros are in shock because they understand that they're going to be the first. Their necks are the first on the chopping blocks. They understand that if they are not a scaled media operation like the New York Times or CNN, who has massive advertising budgets to make sure that their links get that the AI, Google AI mentions their website. The only people who are going to get mentioned, or the only traffic that people are going to get because of this Google change is paid traffic. And already it's like that now. There's absolutely no organic traffic anymore. It's all pay. On Meta, you have to pay Mark Zuckerberg to contact your friends. They won't see what you're talking about on your feed unless you pay Mark Zuckerberg. Then he might show your friends your information. You have to pay for it now. People don't understand this. A lot of people don't understand this. They have a Facebook account. They post occasionally. They don't understand this. But businesses have all been driven onto Facebook to attract customers. And what's happening now is that in order to get customers, you have to pay Facebook. So it's a straight up advertising pay-to-play model. And Google is going to be just like this. But the problem with Google is that they are the search engine of the internet, or they once were the search engine of the internet. They're like the card catalog. If you're an ancient senior, you will know that going into the library before the internet involved card catalogs, where you would look at these files and look for a book by alphabetical order, and then go search for it on a shelf. The card catalog is now going to be full of ads. That's all it'll be. It's all ads. All those little cards will be ads, and Google will be raking in the cash, and the companies that can afford to buy the ads will get distribution, will get their information shared on the Google internet and the Facebook internet. So that's the future, folks. It's not pleasant. The media people will be the first to go. The other, where it's really competitive, but where products aren't actually made, this is like where information products are bought and sold. Stuff like news, small news media, small information businesses. Small businesses, generally speaking, are going to be hurt by this Google change. It's going to be significant. So get ready for it. I don't know what we can do. We have no recourse, really, against companies like Google. Our governments aren't able to control them, so we have no hope at all. As small businesses, as jewelers, as artists, as individuals, we have absolutely no hope in controlling them. And if they don't want traffic to go to your site, it's not going to go to your site. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. So think about that. Now, what are you going to do to make up for the Google referrals coming to your site? Because they're not going to be coming to your site anymore. What are you going to do? What are you going to do as a business, as a jeweler, as an artist? If nobody can find your work on the internet, what are you going to do? You're going to have to buy advertising on Google. So right now, for your budget next year, quadruple, 10x your ad budget, because that's what's going to happen. And it's only going to get bigger and bigger. And the results are going to be vaguer and vaguer. And the results will be determined by the platform. So you'll be paying the money to advertise. They'll be telling you how many ads were shown. You'll have no idea whether this was true or not. And in fact, in a lot of cases, it's turning out not to be true. That the money you spent on advertising actually went to the place it was supposed to go on the platform. Instead, other people that are seeing your ads that aren't supposed to see them, they're getting just put into places you don't want them to be. This is what's happening now. The AI situation, just try and argue with an AI, Google AI, about ad placement. Just try. I dare you. So that's the future. The business space, the information space is going to be absolutely shattered after last week. Now, the media people, as I said, are worried. They're going to be the first to go. Things like lawyers, insurance companies, like all the stuff that can be done by AI will be done by AI. And all the people, you see, discovery is the important part of this that I'm trying to bring out in this show, is that, discovery is important, because if you're running a great business and nobody knows where it is, you're not going to get any business. If you're running if you make the most amazing products in the world, and nobody knows about it, you're out of business. It's that simple. So this is what Google is doing. They're inserting themselves between you and your customer in a way that takes control, that takes agency out of your hands and gives it to Google. It's so wrong. It's absolutely so wrong, and it's going to change the internet completely. I don't know what's going to become of it. I'm a long-term internet dude. I've gone through stages where I'm like, oh God, the internet is horrifying. And then other times when, oh, it's the most magical thing ever. right now, you can still learn from the internet if you want, if you know how to search it, and if you know. I'm talking about the web here, not Facebook or TikTok. Or get off the apps, go onto the internet proper, go onto the internet while we still have it. Look around, poke around, find forums, find not Reddit. Go to forums that like if you're a car, if you love your Ford, go to Ford user forums to find more fans of your car. Those forums are going to make a comeback because forums will be the only source of authentic information in an AI ruled world. So look for small sources, websites, podcasts created by real people. That's what we're going to have to look for to get the information we want, created by humans. Now, some are going to say, oh, no, the AI information will be better because they're smart. It's smarter than us. It can get all the information together and contextualize it. But it all might be wrong. It might be a huge hallucination, a lie. Or it might be an ad, AI ad created by Google just to sell you a product that isn't even what you need or want. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a disaster. I know it's going to be so bad. It's going to be so bad for the information businesses first, but after that for other businesses. Now, the only recourse, as I said, I can see right now is to buy advertising. So ad budgets are going to have to go up. And that's going to affect the prices of everything. Because in order for businesses to have to pay Google all this money to get even, their sign on the door, basically, they're going to have to build that expense into the cost of products. So product pricing is going to go up for right across the board for everything. I think the information people, they're nervous. They're nervous. But the other people who know less about tech, I think they're going to see the results of these Google changes probably within 2 years. The information people within 1 year, this is going to be major changes. But within 2 years, the rest of us, small businesses, small medium businesses are going to really feel the bite of this. I think the big once the huge players figure out how to pay money to Google to get their information to everyone, they're going to crowd out all the small advertisers in AI, and AI will just make up whatever it wants to fill in those gaps. So it's just weird. Anyway, so AI is coming to eat our lunches, all of us, and the only people who are going to do well are the tech bros. And there's some joy in it, in this whole thing, because I know eventually, once they've taken the business from everybody, they're going to have to go at each other, and that's going to be like Clash of the Titans. That's just going to be like watching these giant like dinosaurs go at each other. That will be interesting. But all the rest of us will all be out of business by then, probably. These companies are just too powerful. Anyway, last note before I go, how is the fundraising campaign going? Well, we're over 13% of the goal. I've got 30 days to go, and I'm reaching out to everyone I know. I'm reaching out to everyone about Preserve the Beat, which is my campaign to digitize the huge Tribe magazine photography collection. I used to publish a DJ Culture electronic music magazine in the 90s and early 2000s in Canada, and Tribe magazine. And this is the Bible of the electronic music, the rave scene in Canada back then. And it covered fashion and music and culture, news, electronic music news, all that stuff, record releases. And it was filled with photographs. And I have so many photographs I'm trying to digitize. So I launched a project called Preserve the Beat on Indiegogo. You should go there now, actually, and make a donation. Even a small one will help me digitize this collection. But to digitize a collection in order to preserve it and to show it, I've been running across this problem of trying to spread the message about the campaign to even my own friends, because Facebook won't do it. I have to buy ads in order for them to do it. And Google, I don't want to buy ads on Google because this is not something that would work with an ad on Google. So I'm emailing people. I'm using all the tools at my disposal. Like anyone who's connected to me in some way by email, Facebook, or whatever, you're all getting messages from me about this campaign. Now, some of you I know might not like it. Well, tough. Defriend me then. That's all I got to say. This is an important project that for the country. This collection is important for Canadian history, for Canadian culture, for Canadian music, and it must be digitized. And I'm going to do it, and I'm going to share the images, and they'll be in books and hopefully in documentary films. But even more hopefully, some kid in the future, 100 years from now, will look at one of these photos and it will inspire either a fashion label, a music label, or a new way of life or something. These photos are important, and I'm going to preserve them, protect them, and I'm going to show them. So that's that. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'm going to go back into the studio now. Look, the sun is coming up over the USA, overcast, but still beautiful. You Americans, you're looking so good down there. I'll see you next week. I'm going to go into the studio and finish this belt buckle. I am so excited to get it ready to photograph it. The Cannabis Goldsmith is produced by Tribe Communications, Inc. in the Thousand Islands area of Ontario, Canada. You can see what we do at tribe.ca. Send us an email, alexd@cannabisgoldsmith.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Cannabis Goldsmith.